Hey everyone, welcome to another session of CeerazzleDazzlePhysics. In today's session, guys, we're going to be talking about hydroelectric and biomass energy, guys. So put down today's title, it's going to be hydroelectric and biomass energy. Alright, so before we get going, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button to keep my channel going and keep my content as free as possible. Why not learn for free? Okay, so what exactly is hydroelectric power? Let's look at it. Okay, so what exactly is hydroelectric power? Well, here's today's title and we're going to look at it right now. So here is my mountain. As you can see, I've drawn a mountain over here. So this is my mountain. Oops, there we go. My mountain over here. And as you can see right now, at the top of the mountain, there has been water which has been collected over here. So the water has been collected at the top. There is a little pipe here which is running through the mountain. And what's going to happen is the water is going to travel downwards through the pipe. And as it exits the pipe, there's a turbine over here. So this is my turbine over here. And as the water passes through the turbine, what will happen is the turbine will spin. So the turbine will spin, which is connected to a generator, which will produce electricity. So this is hydroelectric power, guys. It uses the motion of falling water to generate electricity. Let's put that down. There we go, guys. You can see the hydroelectric power, it uses the motion of falling water. Don't forget that water is falling down to generate electricity, guys. So as you can see, the water falls down over here and it pushes through the turbine, and that's what generates electricity. The top part is called the upper reservoir. So this one is going to be the upper reservoir. And the bottom one is going to be called the lower reservoir. Okay, and sometimes when there might be a huge demand in electricity, they might want to pump the water from the lower reservoir back up again. So you might want to pump it up at the top so that it can be stored for later use, guys. So that's a good use of hydroelectric power. And obviously, guys, hopefully you identify that you need a mountain for this whole process to happen. But it's really, really creative. And obviously, look, the key is in the name. Look, hydro, look, that means water. And obviously electric, going to produce electricity. So it all makes sense here. Okay, so what about the advantages and disadvantages of hydroelectric power? Let's look at them. Hydroelectric power, the advantages. Number one, there are no CO2 emissions. There are no CO2 emissions, guys, in this process. Number two, it's also renewable. Yes, it can be used again and again and will not run out. It's also reliable because you know the water is going to collect in the upper reservoir. And guys, the valves at the bottom can be opened and closed, guys, to meet the demand. So let's say the demand was quite high. You can obviously open the valves at the bottom to let more water flow through, or pump up the water to store it for a later date. Disadvantages. First of all, it is expensive to build. So to have that infrastructure installed, it's very difficult to have it built. Also, there's a risk of flooding. So at the bottom of it, sometimes, imagine if the whole thing breaks, the dam breaks, what will happen is the whole bottom area will get flooded. Next one is going to be the migration routes of fishes can be disrupted. So this one's a bit strange, but hopefully you have the idea that if we scroll up over here, let's say you were a little fish over here. Let's draw a little fish over here. The fish can't swim upstream, yeah? So the fish cannot swim upstream. So that stops the migration patterns of fish. And last of all, guys, it's only certain locations only. So only places which have got hills and mountains, you can actually have that installed. So you can't have that everywhere. That's another disadvantage. Okay, so from here, we're going to move on to biomass energy. When we talk about what exactly is biomass energy. Biomass energy. Biomass energy is the burning, guys, it's the burning of byproducts of forestry, plants, or animal waste to produce electricity. So you're burning the byproducts of forestry, plants, or animal waste to produce electricity over here. And here are some examples. So over here we've got bioethanol. This is a very common biomass form of energy. We've also got wood pellets, guys. So wood pellets can also be used. And sometimes we can also use biogas as well. So these are the common ones that you should be familiar with. Bioethanol, wood pellets, and biogas here. So don't forget, these are the byproducts of forestry, plants, and animal waste. The biogas is a mixture of methane and carbon dioxide. So this is going to be a mixture of methane and carbon dioxide. So a lot of people think that this is a great way to produce electricity, but obviously there are pros and cons of using biomass energy. Let's look at the pros and cons of using biomass energy. Number one, it's going to be renewable. So first of all, it's renewable. Don't forget, you can produce more crops, guys. Yes, you produce more crops, maybe plant more trees, guys. And obviously that's going to be renewable, that whole process itself, because you're planting more each time over here. Next one's going to be, it's going to be cheap and readily available. So obviously you might have the animal waste, which is going to be readily available, and it's obviously cheap to actually obtain. Although they release carbon dioxide, the plants also take in carbon dioxide when they're being grown. So obviously when you're growing these crops, they're going to take in the carbon dioxide. And yes, it will release some CO2, but obviously the crops are also taking in some carbon dioxide as well. So although they release CO2, the plants also take in some carbon dioxide when the plants are being grown. Disadvantages are going to be, it's going to release CO2, so they're going to release carbon dioxide obviously when you're burning them. So it is, don't forget, it's a type of fuel. When you're burning it, it will produce carbon dioxide. Yes, maybe less than before, but you're still going to reduce some CO2. Growing the plants or crops takes up a lot of land, and obviously if you're planting loads of crops out there, it will take up a lot of land. So what will happen is, in that region, the biodiversity will decrease. That means loads of other species can't actually compete. So obviously because you're growing one type of crop, the other crops will actually decrease in the numbers. So therefore, you are reducing the biodiversity, guys. You're reducing the biodiversity. And obviously by planting all these crops in there, guys, you're going to be reducing the amount of nutrients there are in the soil for other species to grow. So it'll be removing nutrients from the soil as well. Lastly, if we're using the crops to produce fuels, so if you're now planting crops to produce fuels, what's going to happen is it could lead to a shortage in food, guys, which will obviously get people to question the reason why you're planting the crops to, number one, produce fuel rather than produce food for people. So just make sure that you're aware of that as well. Okay, so we're done for another session in CeerazzleDazzlePhysics. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button to keep my channel going, and good luck in your studies. Ciao, ciao, and goodbye.